With us to continue our conversation is Illinois Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy. He is ranking member of the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. He also sits on the Intelligence Committee. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. I thank you for being with us.
Same here.
As we were just speaking with Janice, you know, China has taken a confrontational stance with the U.S. over the past year and a half. Those spy balloons across the U.S. and Latin America, they're setting up a listening post, allegedly, in Cuba, pressuring Honduras to break relations with Taiwan. Should the president be bringing these issues up with Xi Jinping? I mean, are these issues that should be confronted?
Absolutely, and I think that's partly the purpose of this exchange. I think that the president's going to bring up these issues along with others, such as what was referred to before as the opening of a military-to-military communications channel to de-escalate tensions in the South China Strait and prevent South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait and prevent catastrophic incidents. But I also hope that he's going to bring up human rights and the Uyghur genocide, as well as the crackdown on Tibetans and Hong Kongers. And I hope that he also brings up kind of reestablishing people-to-people ties, which have frayed and have always been the cornerstone of our relationship between China and the United States.
I'm so glad that you mentioned these, Congressman. I mean, you know, the situation of the Uyghurs in China, I mean, the regime of China is a violator of human rights for everyone, but specifically how they have been targeting Uyghurs and the Muslim community there, what they're doing in Tibet and Hong Kong. Why is it, Congressman, that these issues that are so important are not getting the focus or recognition that they are really critical problems?
Well, I think your viewers will be so surprised to learn it has something to do with money. And the fact that when we first, in the year 2000, allowed China into the World Trade Organization and gave them permanent normal trade relations status, we didn't link that at all to advancement or progress with regard to human rights. And so what they did is they basically continued their crackdown on human rights, and they engaged in this horrific genocide involving 23 million Uyghur Muslim people in the northwest province of Xinjiang. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, they've continued with the cultural genocide of the Tibetan people, repression of Hong Kongers, and dissidents of all kinds.
Congressman, I so appreciate you bringing these issues up. You know, it's so important. I also, Congressman, if I could, want your thoughts on the other obviously big story that we've been following for, you know, coming up on a month. The Israel-Hamas war is in its 39th day. Today there will be a huge rally in Washington in support of Israel. This comes as there's just a clear rise in anti-Semitism in the U.S. and around the world. How do you think we should be dealing with that?
I think that we have to kind of lock arms together against the rise of anti-Semitism, but also the rise of Islamophobia. In the suburbs of Chicago, unfortunately, a 6-year-old boy named Wadea Al-Fayoum was murdered merely because he's Muslim by a white supremacist landlord. There's been a skyrocketing of anti-Semitism as well. And so we've got to lock arms together as decent human beings, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, and say we all must hate hate, and we have to do whatever it takes to prevent it from rearing its ugly head in our communities.
Why is it rearing its ugly head more and more in our communities?
Unfortunately, I think there's a latent amount of discrimination. And I think that ever since a certain former president came to office and started to play upon some of the fault lines between people of color, between people of different religions and ethnicities and national origin, that latent discrimination came to the fore. And it materialized into anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, Hinduphobia, discrimination against Asian Americans, which, by the way, is something that I am deeply, deeply concerned about as a ranking member of the Select Committee on the CCP. And so I think we have to say, look, we may disagree about certain issues, whether it's here or abroad, but one thing that we have to come into common combat with is prejudice, bigotry, and hatred of all kinds.
Yeah, it's Congressman, I thank you for being with us this morning. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jose.